Hello everyone, this is part 12 of What If Naruto Was Betrayed and Planned It All, and I hope you guys enjoy this video and to like, to subscribe, to share, and check out the playlist, to see more comment down below. Now let's start the intro.
They call me a god. They call me a god. They call me a god.
What do you mean you want your? It's exactly as it sounds, Kakashi. Obito responded to his old friend. Obito, I have politics to talk. If you have to settle it now, then settle this matter in Kamui. And take her with you. Naruto said, tossing Obito a scroll. Obito nodded. He was instantly next to Kakashi before they disappeared into the alternate dimension of Kamui. Now that those two are gone, we have things to discuss. Naruto said. Wait a moment, you can't just get rid of one of my guards. Tsunade shouted. One of my guards are gone as well, and they will not be replaced. You will accept it, Naruto replied. Even I will agree that you are crossing lines and rules that should not be crossed. Onoki said. I can replace my guards with an army of zombies any time I please. Tsunade had me tortured because she was afraid her ally would turn against her. You and other Kage have destroyed entire nations because of your fear. You and the Raikage and others slaughtered my clan because of your fear. I suggest you not tell me about lines or how and when not to cross them, Lord Tsuchikage. Naruto replied, venom in his voice. Even the Raikage was hesitant after hearing this. However, he spoke up when he composed himself. I myself was hesitant to attack the Uzumaki, both for fear and for respect. However, they were rising up a new power that would have challenged all of the nations. The fact of the matter is that they were partial to Konoha, even with their claims that they were no longer allies. Their presence shifted the balance of power. And the many wars waged throughout the wars have never shifted balance. Enough, Mifune said. This meeting is for politics, not petty squabbling. That is correct, Naruto said. So let me get back to my point. No, you will bring back her guard and your own. Those are the rules, Mifune interjected again. The rules are irrelevant. Regardless of what I do now, they can't be brought back for the moment. Bullshit, Tsunade shouted. You have the Hiraishin. You expect me to believe that you don't have markers on your guards. Whoever said that they work in another dimension? The reason I said that they needed to settle matters in Kamui is because Kamui is in a pocket dimension. Obito is granted access to it via his Mangekyo Sharingan. The Hiraishin might have a massive range, but not massive enough to reach into a different dimension. The rest of them were stunned by this information. Now, we have things to get to. Naruto said. Mifune, I would like to ask that we call a recess until our guards are back. Tsunade said. I would also like you to demand that when we are back in session, he have 2 mortal guards. Agreed. We shall take the requested recess, and when it is over, you will no longer have a reanimate corpse as your guard. Mifune said. Of course. Simply send a messenger for me when you are ready. I will be at the room I am staying in. Naruto said before rolling up the map scroll and sealing it into his arm. He resealed the 2 bodies before walking to the door, Minato disappearing in his coffin as he did so. Once he had exited the room, Tsunade stopped him. Why are you doing all of this? Are you asking why I killed Sakura, had Kakashi confronted by Obito, and basically everything else? You betrayed me, Tsunade. You and Jiraiya. I was ready to be the protector of your village, but instead let your fear gild you. You turned me into an enemy. Then, you tried to bring me back after I escaped my execution. It took me binging back 2 Kage from the dead for you to believe that I was Minato's son. I killed Danzo and Orochimaru, 2 people you have wanted dead for a long time. I had ulterior motives, sure, but it did help you. I kept Jiraiya alive and gave him back to you. Not only that, but I'm the only person who can kill him. Even after you betrayed me, I have done things to help you. You killed my apprentice. She was the closest thing I had to. To what? A daughter. Family. Killing her and everything regarding the Hyuga and Aberrane was how I was able to force Danzo's hand. It was too good an opportunity for him to pass up. Now you will have less resistance from other people, especially any council members he was influencing. And I want you to think back. Were there ever any times that you did something that you don't think fit? Any memories that didn't belong? He said, seeing her thinking back before realizing what he meant. Do you remember Shisui Uchiha? Few knew about it, or the full extent of his power, but his Mangekyo Sharingan allowed him to alter the memories of people. Yes, he could even make you know that your grandfather was not Hashirama Senju, but was in fact Madara Uchiha. He could even supply you with reasons on why you didn't have the genetics or physical features of an Uchiha, as well as why you had no Sharingan. He could create every detail needed to make sure nothing was inconsistent. Would you like to know who ripped one of his Sharingan out of its socket shortly before he died? He was ambushed by Danzo, who took one eye before Shisui escaped. Shisui later gave his other eye to Itachi before committing suicide. Danzo was able to take the eye because he had been conspiring with Orochimaru. The later of the two had grafted Sharingan onto the former's arm, as well as your grandfather's cells onto his shoulder. This gave him access to a jutsu that, in short, allows the user to alter reality. I will explain later, but it is also how Madara Uchiha brought himself back from the dead weeks after Hashirama killed him. So, yes, I have done things that have hurt you, but those things have helped you in the end. So stop getting angry at me. You started this, Tsunade. You will forgive me if I finish it. Tsunade and Jiraiya were stunned. You truly are a foolish brat, Onoki said, walking up with his guards. I was behind him with his own guards. As are you, old man, Naruto said. He looked at B and Roshi. Roshi, forgive me for the punishment you endured after I took Han from your village. Yes, I would like to discuss that with you when the meeting starts again, Onoki said with barely held rage. Can it, old man? Naruto said before returning his focus to Roshi. Tell me, Roshi, you can control some of your Bijuu's chakra, but you can't fully control it. Not only that, but you probably don't even know his name, do you? Roshi was shocked to hear these words. However, you have, B. I want to talk to you two soon, Roshi and B. Tomorrow should be good. He then disappeared in a hurriedly. Break. Obito. How are you alive? Kakashi shouted. Would you really like to know? Fine. But first, Obito said, trailing off. Obito held the scroll Naruto had given him. He quickly unfurled it to reveal several sealing arrays. He placed his hand on one of the seals before a burst of smoke enveloped where he stood. As the smoke cleared, Kakashi's eye widened. The smoke cleared to reveal Rin standing there, looking no different than the day she had died. She was slightly hunched over, but quickly straightened her stance and opened her eyes. What is going on? She asked, looking around. Her face became one of shock when she saw Obito and Kakashi, as well as remembering that she had died. It is finally time for you two to know the truth about Madara Uchiha and the role he played in our lives, Obito said. Break. So that's how it happened. Rin said. Yes, Obito said. Obito, I can understand why you have done all that you have, but why join Naruto? Once you learned the truth, why didn't you come back? Kakashi asked. Because it was Naruto who pulled me from the darkness. Naruto is evil. He is trying to destroy Konoha. Even if that were true, how would you defeat an evil that you cannot destroy by just means? Do you stain your hands with evil to destroy evil? Or do you remain steadfastly just and righteous even if it means surrendering to evil? Don't you see? Even if Naruto wanted to destroy the world entirely, I would still follow him until he comes to the point that he tries to destroy it. Do you know why? Because his goal is to destroy the corruption in this world to create a true and lasting peace. I would stain my hands with the blood of millions if it finally creates this ideal world, Obito said. He gave a small chuckle. I guess I already have. When I acted as Madara, I killed many people for the sake of the plan. There was one thing I forgot to tell you as well. A part of the story that I left out. It was me who released the Kyuubi and forced it to attack Konoha. I was the one responsible for our sensei's death. What did you say? Kakashi asked in disbelief. Exactly as you heard. Obito said, he doesn't like it, but he has allowed me to offer it to you. I would like you to come back to Izu with me. Why should anyone go with you? Why should anyone join Naruto? Kakashi interrupted. Obito turned back to Kakashi. We wouldn't even be having this conversation if you hadn't abandoned him. You only cared that he had the Kyuubi. You didn't care that he was on your team. You once said that those who abandon their teammates are worse than trash, but it was you who stood there and watched with hatred at his execution. Kakashi had no response. Regardless of what you choose, Rin, there is something important to settle right now. I need you to transplant my eye again. Break. Obito landed behind Naruto, the latter of which was working over a table with different equipment on it. How did things go? Naruto asked. Kakashi is back with Tsunade. I gave him the other eye as a parting gift. Obito said. Tell me truthfully, Obito, do you want to save Kakashi? If you want, he will be left alive. Naruto said, not looking up. As foolish as he has been, he was once my friend. If you could make sure that he survives, that would be appreciated. I'll leave it up to you then. From now on, facing Kakashi Hatake in battle is your responsibility at any point that you are available. If you are not available, then I can only tell you that he will be spared if possible. Naruto then looked up. Are you ready to revolve your eyes? Actually, that was something I wanted to talk to you about. The eye I got back from Kakashi evolved when it was given back to me. Naruto nodded. I will take a look at it when working on everything else. He then bent back over a large magnifying glass, several sets of eyes under the glass. In his hands were small tools that he was using to prod the eyes. There was one more thing. They wanted me to notify you that you have 1 hour before the meeting starts. Obito said. What of Sasuke? He has returned to his own people. Now, let's begin the procedure. Obito nodded before he went over to a small table and laid down on it. A Naruto clone walked over before undoing the bandages over Obito's left eye. Obito activated his Sharingan in both eyes before the clone extracted both. The clone then took the eyes over to Naruto, who started to examine the already mutated eye. It would seem that the eye mutated off your own genetic code. That is interesting, Naruto said before prodding further. Now that is particularly interesting. Your eye no longer has its primary or secondary layer. Only its third. What do you mean? I'll explain in a moment, Naruto said before he continued working. Nearly half an hour passed as they sat in silence. Tell me how this works exactly, Obito said, his eyes now covered in bandages. We have tried transplanting your eyes into Itachi already. It should come as no surprise that it didn't work. Then there was what happened when your left eye was reinserted into your eye. It evolved somehow. It probably had something to do with you not being the eye's host when it evolved into its Mangekyo form. I still don't know how it evolved in Kakashi anyways. It probably had something to do with the connection between the two eyes when you got into close proximity. Hopefully I can make your other eye evolve, it should help. You still haven't explained how the process works. I find it amazing that the Uchiha always had such faith in their eyes that they never tried to research its mechanisms. Anyways, when the Sharingan first manifests, it develops a secondary iris under the original. As the Sharingan matures, so does the secondary iris. When active, the secondary iris projects itself over the primary one. The reason that when the Mangekyo form develops you can still use the normal form is because a third iris forms. The third follows the same pattern as the second. The eternal Mangekyo forms when the genetics of the new host interact with the donor eyes to, basically, hijack the third iris and mutate it. The mutated version becomes complete, thus removing the defects of rapid aging from use. However, if the eye is never transplanted into a viable Uchiha host and properly connect after being removed, the eye is unable to complete a connection to the brain. This stops the new user from controlling chakra input and usage when the second or third iris is active or being able to shift between irises again. This is why the eye has to be covered and why it uses up so much chakra. It is also the reason why Shisui's Kotoamatsukami takes so long to use again when it is transplanted. The eye is under too much pressure to use it very often. Danzo could use it once in a day, but only because of the Sunju cells to promote regeneration in the eye. And, because the connection can still fail when the eye is implanted into an Uchiha, that is why your mask has always had to cover your left eye that you implanted. That is, until I gave you that special contact lens. However, I have been studying the eye long enough to find a way to force automatic connections by stimulating certain nerves. I can also bypass the need for a viable Uchiha to complete the connection entirely, Naruto said. He took a needle and poked it into one of the eyes before pulling back on the plunger of the syringe. All I have to do is transplant an iris into a non-Uchiha eye. He paused, holding up the syringe to the light. Inside was a red semi-liquid with a black, partly coherent, four-pointed pinwheel. He then bent back down to the table to continue working. Though, there are certain characteristics of the new host eye that need to be met or the new iris and the receiving eye will start to break down. But, I can also put the iris in the eye of another Uchiha. If it is inserted into an eye without the Mangekyo and it works, then the transplanted iris will mutate but has nothing to mutate in return. In order to evolve, if it does at all, it completely absorbs the secondary iris of the new host eye. Is that what you meant when you said that my eye no longer had its secondary? Yes, your eye absorbed its own primary and secondary iris to mutate the tertiary. It's one of the most interesting things I have ever seen. It consumed a part of itself to evolve. And now your left eternal Mangekyo is literally eternal. It can't be deactivated. Or rather, if it can, it would have no iris. No iris, no opening for the light. No light, no sight. In short, you'll be blind. But because you're an Uchiha and can regulate chakra flow to your eye, you could actually keep it activated for the rest of your life without any negative side effects. Now, as I was saying about the mechanics of the Sharingan. If the receiving eye does have the Mangekyo, however, the donor iris will rest under the third while both pass information between each other. They will both mutate and allow the fourth to be removed and inserted into another eye. Of course, that is assuming that they don't start to deteriorate. Now, back to the point I made before about putting the iris into the eye of a non-Uchiha. The process has a high chance of destroying the receiving eye and the iris. However, if it works, this allows for the eye to be transplanted. It will enter any host without needing to worry about the proper connections needing to form. No, scratch that. There is still need for the proper connections to form, but the probability for it to work is nearly 100% now that the connection no longer requires that the eye be implanted into an Uchiha. I thought you said it had a high chance of failing. Obito said. I said it had a high chance of destroying the eye and iris if they did not transition properly. However, especially because of the fact that I can stimulate certain nerves within the eyes and force it, a proper connection to the brain is almost guaranteed. Naruto continued to work in silence for a moment before sitting up. Obito, would you like to have your eyes now? Naruto said, holding up Obito's other eye. It was a success then. Yes, your eyes and Shisui's are both in their M states. Naruto said. One of Naruto's clones walked over, took the eye that Naruto handed to it, and walked over to Obito. He undid the bandages over Obito's eyes. He took a few moments to connect the optic nerves within the socket before pushing the eyes in and pulling the eyelids into place. He then wrapped the bandages back around Obito's eyes. How are the others coming along? Obito asked. Naruto stood up and turned around. There was medical tape keeping a patch of gauze over his hollow right eye. Everything is going perfectly, he said with a dark smirk as he held up his own right eye in his hand. A figure appeared next to him a moment later. It was an Anbu from a zoo with a mask similar to what Obito used to wear. The largest difference was that the swirls originated from both of the eye holes in a complex and overlapping pattern over the black mask. He wore a mask of Naruto's personal warriors. They were not the best of all units, as Naruto had them remain to complete missions, but they were hand-picked by Naruto. They were some of the few that Naruto had given Hirashin kunai to. He had not taught them the jutsu, but he had taught them how to activate his modified seals. The kunai he had given them, however, were locked onto two locations. One was the Azukage Tower, the other being Naruto himself. Sakura Haruno has a report for you, Lord Azukage. She said that she finally had results. The Anbu said. Good, Naruto said, placing the eye in a solution before turning to Itachi, who was sitting in the corner. You can dispel now. The real you can create another clone if there is need. Itachi nodded before disappearing in a puff of smoke. Naruto disappeared next in his Hirashin. He landed in a lab. Itachi was laying down on a table with Sakura next to him, her hands glowing green. She looked up at him. Lord Azukage, I finally have results. Sakura said. She was wearing a white lab coat and a concerned face over his eye. Finally, I'm surprised that there are results already. Naruto responded. What have you found? Sakura moved her attention to some papers that she took out before she showed him the diagrams and scans on them. We found out what's killing him. The team you had on this was already close. I just used the data they already had to help work it out. Most of it was already done, she said before showing and explaining everything they had found. Naruto nodded. This is going to be the part where you come in. The other surgeons on the team are great, but you have had better training in that field, he said. And the other subject? From what we can tell, whatever was killing him was some sort of fungus, parasite, or virus that died shortly after he did. Now that it is gone from his body, he no longer has it. He's fine. Alright, how long will it take to get Itachi back on his feet, and would there be any lasting effects? He should be fine in a few days considering the back to tanks. Other than that, while he might have a nasty scar, he should be fine. Good, Naruto said, pulling out a letter from his coat. Get that to the Nadaime. Yes sir, Sakura said, taking the letter. Naruto was gone a moment later. Break. Naruto was the last person to enter the cage summit room, Hinata and Shino flanking him. Though he was the last to enter, it was seen that everyone else was only just sitting down. Naruto took note that Kakashi was now replaced with Sasuke, the former most likely still recovering from the eye transplant like Obito was. Naruto then noticed that Gaara had more than just his gourd. There were large, and obviously heavy, canisters at his hips, 3 on each hip. They were on the same belt to keep them up, but they were separated to keep them from hindering any movement. The front one on his right had a white band near a closed opening at the top. The middle one on the right had a band of what looked like aluminum near its opening. The last of the right side had a band of silvery gray. The first one on the left had a bluish gray band. The next one had a faded yellow band. The last one had a gold band. Naruto walked over to the Kazekage. Because you have those, I take it you've mastered the technique you've been working on. Gaara nodded. Finally finding the Yondaime Kazekage's scrolls has helped me with my work on unlocking the Jiten. Finding the elements needed, refining them, and then mastering my use with them was much harder than originally anticipated, but my work has paid off in the end. Are you building up deposits in case of emergency? As we speak, Gaara said, pointing down. Are you ready to call the council now? Those tools should help. Yes, they should. I agree. Call it after today's meeting before we head home. But, could you try to do it without starting a war? I would like some warning. Of course. You and I both know that Orb is powerful, but war will still bring casualties. To both sides. No amount of training will prevent that. Hopefully we can at least recruit on more or bully another one into joining in order to minimize casualties. But we won't be leaving before tomorrow. What do you mean? Sasuke is going to ask me to explain everything to these cage. This meeting is getting old fast, but we won't get the politics done until later. Get ready, my friend. The next few days will define everything. Naruto then moved into the center of the room while his team moved over to his seat. He pulled out the map scroll from before, unfurled it, and activated the seals. All of the cage sat down, and, as the map appeared, Sasuke made a noise to bring attention to him. I know that most of the information has been summed up to me, but I think that before any politics are discussed, the Azukage should explain everything he has yet to tell us. But this time, it should be done in detail, Sasuke said. I assume that you mean the things about the Uzumaki clan, the Sage of Six Paths, Kaguya, Madara, and everything else leading up to this point. Naruto said. Sasuke nodded. Fine. Then you should all listen very carefully as I do not wish to repeat it again. Naruto said. This information is some that I have explained to many people, and yet few know. Now then, it is time for the whole world to truly know what the past holds. This all began when Kaguya Otsutsuki ate a fruit. It took a few hours for Naruto to finish going through every detail. He explained the time that Kaguya lived in, how she came to be the first human to use chakra, how she eventually gave birth to the Sage of Six Paths and his brother. He then explained how she slowly slipped into madness before merging with the Shinju tree and becoming the Juubi. He explained how the Juubi was eventually split between its body and its chakra, how the body was sealed within the moon while the chakra was sealed within the sage to make him the first Jinchuriki, and how the sage split the Juubi into the 9 Biju. He then proceeded to explain the sage's sons, how they and their clans were manipulated by black Zetsu, what the black and white Zetsu are, and how the Uzumaki were eventually created. He explained everything that happened up until the Uzumaki were destroyed, the story behind Madara and Hashirama, what happened between Madara and Hashirama during their last battle, and how Black Zetsu had forced Madara's body to activate the Izanagi. He explained how Madara had survived, how he had manipulated Obito, everything involving the Akatsuki, and how the members of said organization had been manipulated. However, he had left out the details about recruiting most of the members. He did, however, tell the details on how he had confronted the Akatsuki. Are you telling me they survived? Jiraiya asked. I believe I just explained those details. Yes, they're alive. Yes, you thought they died. Yes, they created the Akatsuki. And yes, they did everything I said. Oh, and just for clarification, I was the one who helped them. Now shut up. I have other things to explain. He then told about how Obito had been behind the Kyuubi attack, the Uchiha massacre, almost everything involving himself, and the rebuilding of Izu. Though, he had left out many details. Those details included the many Jinchuriki in Izu, the technology that had been developed, and some of the experimentation and secret projects that he had been working on. He had also explained the things that Danzo had done, everything involving Phase 4, and how he had dealt with Danzo. Though, he had left out the part about Sakura being alive. Finally, he had even explained everything involving Roku and the other Uzumaki that had been discovered. By the time everything had been explained, it was getting late. Now then, Naruto said. I believe that it is getting late. As much as I wanted to finish the politics of this meeting today, I believe that another break should be held until tomorrow. Naruto looked at the others who started nodding in agreement. Wait, Sasuke said. I have yet to tell Tsunade about her being alive. Why don't you? Because there is no reason to. Naruto responded. Tell her now, or I will. Naruto was silent a moment before he sighed. Alright, and I will tell her. But I will do it tomorrow. By that point, I can bring her here with me. You told me it would take weeks. I lied. She was awake when we left. What did you say? What the hell is going on? Tsunade shouted. I will tell you tomorrow when the meeting in reconverged. Naruto said. What do you mean you had her awake when we left? Sasuke asked. Exactly as I said. However, it served a purpose. For years, Itachi has been slowly dying of a disease. Guess who I put on the team to help with that little problem? If I didn't need her, you could have her back right now. However, she is currently working on Itachi with surgical tools. I only need her medical prowess in the surgical field. Once the procedure is done and I have your brother in a Bacta tank, I honestly don't care what happens to her. Sasuke's face darkened slightly. Sometimes, you can be a cold bastard. You know that. Of course I know it. I would never have made it this far without accepting that, sometimes, people need to freeze their hearts to protect those that can warm them again. Now then, I want everyone to think about the history that I have told you. Tomorrow, you will not be learning history. You will be making it. A moment later, Naruto and his team disappeared in the Izu Shunshin. Who were you two talking about? Tsunade asked. It doesn't matter. Even if he doesn't reveal the truth tomorrow, I can do it. Break. Naruto appeared in a clearing with Bee and Roshi. Both of the later were instantly in their respective stances. Calm down. I'm calling a council of the Jinchuriki. Naruto said. He then disappeared in a Hiraishin again. He quickly reappeared with Fu at his side. A moment later, he did so again with Gaara. When Naruto appeared again, he was in another clearing. He walked over to a small cabin before walking around it. He saw a lake there with a dock. Naruto walked up behind Han, who was at the end of the dock. Han no longer had his armor on, preferring to wear a red kimono. He was sitting there, a fishing pole in his hand. Are you ready? Naruto asked. Yes, Han responded. He pulled in his fishing pole, a large fish on the end of it. He brought the fish closer before putting it in a basket. He stood up before turning to Naruto, a small smile on his uncovered face. Naruto placed his hand on Han's shoulder before they appeared in front of Utakata's home. A few minutes later and Naruto appeared with Han, Yugito, Yagura, and Utakata in the clearing he had left the other four. For the first time in a long time, the 9 Jinchuriki are in the same place at the same time. So, are you ready to listen to my words, Roshi and Bee? Naruto said. The two relaxed and nodded. All 9 sat down in a circle before Naruto closed his eyes. Kurama, I think it is finally time. Naruto said. Fine. Naruto opened his eyes. It's time, he said. The other Jinchuriki nodded before clasping their hands. They were sitting in a circle before they all closed their eyes. When they opened them again, they were in a melded environment. It was a massive superstructure with 9 massive sections. In one area was Naruto's mindscape, the cage and Kyuubi behind where he was standing. Next to his was, what appeared to be, a section of a raccoon burrow made of dark yellow sand. There was a hazy gray barrier holding back Shukaku. Yugito's was a massive field of grass that was only able to still have an open sky and localized, calm breeze because this was a meld of mindscapes. Behind, Matatabi was laying down. Yagura's had taken the form of a serene forest. There were even constructs of small creatures such as birds and squirrels. Even the chirping of insects could be heard. Yagura was sitting on a branch with his legs crossed. Behind him was a clearing with a calm pond. The calm wasn't even disturbed by Isabu half submerged within it. There was a ring of ceiling arrays around the pond. Roshi's took the form of the bottom of a massive canyon. Roshi himself sat on top of a rock while Son Goku was caged within a hollow area of the canyon wall. Hands looked similar to Yagura's, but it was clear by the small cabin and dock that his mindscape was constructed to take the form of his home. Kokuo was laying down near the pond, a large, chainless shackle around his front right leg. There was a ceiling array on the shackle. Utakata's took the form a cluster of islands in the middle of the ocean. The largest island had 2 inhabitants. Utakata was one, Saiken the other. There was a small, makeshift cabin for Utakata, while there was a cave for Saiken to sleep if he so desired. Saiken and Utakata were both sitting on the beach of their island. Fuu's took the form of a massive, 150-meter tree in the middle of misty forest. She was standing on top of one of the highest branches. Chome in a hole in the side of the tree with small branches and vines covering the hole in a grid pattern. It could be seen, however, that Chome had access to the rest of the tree's interior. Killer Bee was sitting on Gyuki's head, between the horns, as they both sat before a large waterfall. Naruto looked at them. Am I the only one that has not changed the manifestation of my own mind? Fine. He turned around before flashing his arms out. Everything disappeared before a large beach formed. It was early evening, a perpetual sunset barely a sliver on the horizon with light clouds in sky. There was a large cliff nearby. Naruto walked over to the side of the cliff to find a massive cave with bars at its mouth. You are finally ready to take full control of my power. It's about time, Kit. Naruto smiled as he stood before the massive cage. He then turned around and walked into the solid black marble at the center of the mindscapes. The others joined him. Shukaku is still banging on his seal a few times a day. We aren't on speaking terms. Gaara said. Matatabi and I are on good terms. We have already bonded, much like Bee and Gyuki. Yugito said. Since we were both trapped in a genjutsu almost all of our time together, Isabu and I have come to speaking terms. However, he still won't give me control of his chakra. Yagura said. Based on everything that is being said, I assume we are talking about the state of our relationship to our Biju. He and I are simply not on talking terms. Roshi said. Kokuo still has slight resentment, but has decided to give me a chance because we have both suffered over the years. He will not fight, Han said. Saiken and I are also on good terms and have already bonded as well. Utakata said. I can use his chakra, but he has put up a fight on the matter. Fu said. He has taken pity on me for the torture that Taki put me through, but not enough to let me control his power without struggling to do so. Me and Gyuki are top rate, yeah. B said. And I just need to deal with a stubborn fuzzball. Then it is time. B, Yugito, and Utakata. Help Roshi, Yagura, and Fu. I can handle mine. Han won't have any trouble. And Gaara has asked me to let him handle Shukaku. Let's go. No, I will handle mine. Roshi said. I want to handle it myself. Alright. B, Yugito, and Utakata, stand by to see if anyone needs your help. They nodded before the others went back to their individual seals. Naruto stood there and smiled. It's time. Water rushed up from the beach before swirling around his legs and carrying him up to where the seal rested. He placed his hands over the seal before the paper melted off. He pulled up his shirt and made his seal appear before the key appeared on his arm and stomach. He unlocked the seal. The metal lock retracted before the cage flew open. Gaara twisted his arm and slashed it through the air. The grey wall disappeared. Yagura kneeled down and dug his hand into part of the seal. The rest of the array disappeared a moment later. Fu made a hand sign before the vines and branches disappeared. The uncooperative Biju rushed forward the moment they were free. Naruto dodged Kurama's claw. The moment he was in the air, a tail came out and tried to attack him. Clones formed and threw him out of the way. Naruto flew through hand signs before bringing his hands to his face. Kaiten, desolation. The wave of fire was instantly melting the sand. Kurama gave a slight grunt at the flames but was undeterred. However, as the color of the flames increased in frequency, he started to become worried at the power of Naruto's flames. They started changing from the thick orange to white. From there they changed into blue flames. A second later and they had actually turned violet, the color with the highest frequency of visible light, and therefore the hottest color flames. Kurama knew that only two forms of fire could be hotter. The black flames of Amaterasu, and ultraviolet and X-rays, a point in which the flames would become unseen. Kurama knew that if Naruto pushed himself to that point, the only further he could advance would be to start producing dangerous levels of radiation. Kurama quickly raised his tails and started to form a Bijudama. However, before he could eat the ball of energy, he felt pain rip through his stomach. The Bijudama promptly became unstable from his momentary lapse in concentration and exploded. When the smoke finally cleared, Kurama looked pissed. He saw Naruto standing there, his Sage mode active. He noticed that it was much more stable than before. Naruto's face had now lost most of the animalistic features, now only sporting the scales over the sides of his face and the dragon-like, ridged eyebrows over his golden eyes and silted pupil. His arms, hands, and torso showed that he still had work to do. You used your Sage mode to withstand the flames and rushed me while a clone held the fire. Impressive, Kurama said. Naruto smirked. Kurama felt his weight being pulled out from under him as several clones grabbed his tails and pulled them under him and towards his head. Kurama was flipped over at the speed his tails were being pulled. A moment later and the clones started pulling at Kurama's chakra. However, Kurama sent out his own chakra to corrupt their own. Before it could reach them, the clones disappeared. I want this over as quickly as possible, Kurama, so hold still. Naruto said, flashing through hand signs. Chains flew out of the ground and wrapped around Kurama. Keeping me still won't make taking my chakra easier. No, but this will. Bunshin formed around him before putting their hands up in the air. A massive, white Rasengan formed above him. The Bunshin started pouring their chakra into the technique before several rings of fire and lightning started to form around it. There was a small, dark ball was at the center of the attack. Multi-style, atomic Rasengan. The clones started swarming around him as he took off. Kurama lost track of the real one after he passed the attack onto some of the other clones. Before he could retaliate, he felt a hand on his chest that quickly started pulling on his chakra. He was about to send his own out to corrupt him when he realized that the attack was at him. He braced for its force. The attack absorbed itself and turned into a black and white, spiraling sphere just before it hit, and the shockwave spread through the mindscapes, caused the others to stop what they were doing and stare. Naruto kept pulling before he was finally able to pull out the last of Kurama's chakra before chains came out of the cave and pulled the now more fragile-looking Kurama back into the cave. A moment later and the cage swung closed. Naruto walked over to Kurama, who barely held his eye open. You have become closer and more cooperative, but I can still see hatred in you. One day, I hope to wipe that hatred away, he said before he returned to the center, Kurama falling asleep as he left. Yugito, Yagura, Han, and Utakata were waiting for him. He looked to see Fu and Gaara still fighting their respective tenants. Fu can handle herself, Naruto said. Just keep an eye on her and intervene if she needs it. Yugito, I'm going to help Gaara, he said, noticing that Gaara was not struggling to restrain Shukaku, but was struggling to take the chakra from his insane tenant. When the fight had started, the golden banded and the silvery gray banded canisters opened to allow clouds of iron and gold to fly towards Shukaku. Gaara quickly had them enter Shukaku's arms before the faded yellow one opened for a cloud of the same color to flow from the canister. The uranium dust held Shukao in place, but made taking his chakra no easier. Naruto walked over to his friend, his sage mode still active. Shukaku. Naruto shouted, getting both of their attention. Naruto then walked over to Gaara. Allow me to give you a hand, my friend. Naruto walked over to Shukaku's face and stared into one of his eyes. He placed a hand on Shukaku's face before speaking. I ask that you do the reasonable thing. Give Gaara a chance. Let your absolute hatred go. I will tell you what I told Kurama. I wish to wipe away the hatred in you. But I will tell you something I didn't tell him, he said before his voice turned cold. Hagoromo would be disappointed in how you have acted. Shukaku's eye widened. You have fallen into the depths of madness. Just don't give me a reason to lose hope for you, or I will put you down without a second's hesitation. He said before turning around. You can take over Gaara. Gaara nodded before stepping forward. As Naruto stepped back into the center, he could tell that even the previously sleeping Kurama had heard everything he said. Chomei had finally been defeated and had also been hanging on his words. I want to wipe away the hatred the Biju have residing in them. That is one of my goals. Naruto said, a golden, flaming cloak forming around his body. But I have other things that need doing at the moment. Goodbye for now. But first, he trailed off before flashing to each of the Jinchuriki and placing his hand on their seals. A moment later he disappeared. Break. How did the procedure go? Naruto asked. He stood before Itachi's form floating in the Bacta tank, Sakura at his side. Itachi had a large, thick, and jagged scar running from his hairline to his sternum. The scar had been a wound held together by sutures not long before, but the Bacta had quickly dissolved them when the wound was closed. It went well. It was amazing that he lasted as long as he did. My guess was that it was only his extreme will and his training that he withstood it. The growths were all over his torso and in his skull. I'm not sure whether or not we got everything. Sakura said. You bought him more than enough time if you missed anything. And you save his life, you got it all. Either way he will live a long life for a shinobi. Now then, is there anything else to report? No sir. Good. Follow me to my office. She did as she was told, following Naruto through the halls of the Azuchage Tower. They quickly entered the empty office before Naruto unsealed two things. One was his desk and chair. The other, a large mirror. The mirror had only two noticeable features that stood out. The first was its inelegance. It had no elegant frame, precious metal or otherwise. The other feature was the fact that it was cracked. The cracks spread out from a single point. As they spread out, the segments of glass got bigger, though they were all of varying size. Look in that mirror, Naruto told Sakura as he sat down. Tell me what you see. As Sakura turned to the mirror, Naruto began weaving a massively complex genjutsu around her. Sakura stared a moment before the different shards started to show different parts of her life. She saw her life in Konoha. She saw her time on Team 7. She saw everything about her real life. The shards started to merge before showing her how she had died. Then she saw how she had been brought to Azu, her memories concealed and replaced. The mirror then shattered again as the genjutsu faded and her memories returned, the needle in her brain dissolving. Sakura fell to her knees. Why what? Naruto asked. I think you and I both already know the answer to both questions. No, I mean, why did you give me back my memories? It's time for you to go home, Sakura. Now that your purpose has been fulfilled, I no longer have use for you. Break. Naruto entered the meeting room once again, Hinata and Shino at his sides again. He was, once again, the last one in. This was starting to bore Naruto. It was keeping him from other things. He walked to the center of the room while his guards moved to the side. Can we call this meeting now? Naruto asked, turning to look at Mifune. The old samurai nodded, though he was clearly on guard. Naruto had quickly shown that he was nothing less than a wild card. The fact of the matter was that Mifune had no idea what was going to happen next. Two large scrolls appeared in each of Naruto's hands from the seals on his arms. He unfurled the larger of the two to once again reveal the map of Azu. Now then, because of Sasuke, I have one single thing to address before everything finally starts. Naruto said. He unfurled the other scroll, revealing the dead that are not dead. The second scroll burst into smoke before Naruto threw an unconscious Sakura into Tsunade's arms. You can check her grave if you like. Naruto said. I assure you, she is very much alive. The body you buried belonged to that of a cage bunchen. However, I used massive amounts of seals to let her live through the clone before it died. You would not believe the amount of chakra needed to keep that body formed after it was dead. I had to abandon months of work to keep the clone alive by using chakra that was stored up. Oh, one last thing. If you so much as think that I did this for you, Sunad, I will bury you alive with chakra suppresses all over your body. I kept her alive for my own purposes and saw no reason to kill nor keep her when those purposes were done. Before you can even say what you're thinking, Sunad, he is telling the truth. Sasuke said. Yes. Now, I am growing tired of this summit. I would like to finally get out of this country and back to my own. Naruto said. As much as I hate to agree with him, the Azukage is right. Onoki said. Before anyone could say anything, Sunad had set Sakura down before leaping over the desk and rushing Naruto. Before she got very far, sand surrounded her legs and lower abdomen. She went to raise her hands and fight back before I grabbed both of her hands and held them behind her back. As much as I can understand your anger, I would rather you not start a war right now. I said. You tortured her, Sunad shouted. And before I left Konoha, you had me tortured. You tortured a clone, but I received the pain, memories, and mental strain that came with its dispersal. Naruto said. Now sit down before you start a war. It took a few minutes for everyone to settle down, though it was obvious that Sunad was still on edge. Now that is done, the first point I would like to bring up is the Jinchuriki. I realize that Onoki and I were not overly fond of me recruiting them. Naruto said. I would like to negotiate for their return. I said. Why do you even want them back? Naruto asked. They are weapons. Onoki said. Even if no one likes to be around them, they are a village's greatest weapon. You might have taken one of the Jinchuriki from Kumo and Iwa, but each of us still have one. You might be a Jinchuriki as well, but you can't take on two of the great nations. So what does it say about a village that they revere their Kage, who is also a Jinchuriki and the village's founder? Naruto asked. You do not know the struggle of a Jinchuriki. I actually expected you to know more, however, Sunad. Your grandmother was the Jinchuriki of the Kyuubi, and yet you claim that its current host is a threat. It doesn't matter. I said. With my brother being a Jinchuriki, I can at least try to understand them. It's why they are better treated in Kumo than in any other village. Clearly you have never been to a zoo. Naruto interrupted. A's face contorted in rage at being interrupted. As much as I care for my brother, Jinchuriki are tools of their villages. They are not an individual that has the right to make those decisions by themselves. That is where you are wrong. Obito once thought like you. Many have thought like you. Those people have tried to use the Jinchuriki as tools for so long, that the end of our world has come very close many times in history. If Obito had had his way without my interference, it's quite possible that Kaguya Otsutsuki would have already killed us all. My opinion might be biased, but I believe the thoughts of the Jinchuriki should be held in just as high regard as the Kage. If not just as high, then nearly as high. If for no other reason than because one of them could destroy your village from a mile away. They could easily hold their own in a fight against any of the Kage. Don't tell me their thoughts don't matter if they conflict with your own. Now let's say, hypothetically of course, that I had Yugito positioned outside Kumo. I activate a seal to signal her, and she goes on a brief rampage through your pathetic village before using a Biju Dharma to wipe it away. You're fast, I'll give you that, but not fast enough to save your village. Naruto held up his hand and activated the seal before it could stop him. However, A still ripped his arm off. Naruto started laughing before the arm grew back. The interesting thing about clones is that they are forms of their creators molded by separating the person's chakra and forming it out of the body. My technique that allows me to channel chakra into them after their creation and keep them going also allows me regenerate limbs of the clone by channeling a large quantity of chakra into the clone at once. The Bunchen held up a bowl of steaming ramen in the arm that had not been ripped off. I might be wrong, but I believe you just overreacted. I did say hypothetically. Now do you understand? We Jinchuriki are vastly different than what you think. We can be used as weapons, but we are so much more than that. Now, sit down so that we can speak in a civilized manner. I respect most of you because your villages and you yourselves have commanded the respect of the world for centuries. Your villages have created names for themselves of the years. I will not have you, in one meeting, besmirching those names by behaving like a babbling, bumbling band of baboons. Gaara snickered with a smirk before leaning over to May. Try saying that 5 times fast. He whispered as had a confused look on his face. The Raikage eventually sat down while Naruto ate his ramen and Gaara and May were whispering and laughing. Naruto then cleared his throat to get their attention. The two quieted down and straightened in their chairs. Now then, the Orb Union has become powerful. Naruto said. That fact can be proven by the ease in which Orochimaru was dealt with. Over the years, Azu has reached out to smaller nations along with Kase and Mizu to build Orb. We have used Orb to stabilize the regions under our influence. We still have problems, as any nation does, but things have been going well. The first thing that needs to happen is that our political processes need to be explained. Break. This entire meeting was all but pointless. Naruto mumbled. He had to admit that he had been pushing his luck more than a little during this meeting, but he had expected to get better results. Though, he had to admit that things could have been worse. Onoki had flat out admitted that he would retire before joining Azu. Had admitted a desire to fight him for his actions, but his brother had stopped him. It had been a few days since B had spoken without rhyming. He had shocked his brother with the seriousness he spoke with. He had told her that if Kumo attacked Azu without first being provoked, he wouldn't fight. He had refused to fight Yugito in a battle without any true meaning. They had both been silent during the rest of the meeting, not including the end when Naruto had still offered to set up trade routes for them from the other nations. Their parts had been played. Tsunade's reaction was less surprising. She had used no small amount of sarcasm as she thanked him for keeping Sakura alive and killing Danzo and Orochimaru. She had then turned serious and told him to go to hell. I agree, but it could have been worse. They have agreed not to bother Orb, and Kumo is trading with some of our allies and members. That's a step in the right direction. Hinata said. They were alone in Naruto's hotel room. Naruto stood from his chair. I know, but Konoha is still a wild card. Who knows when they will snap? All I know is that with Kumo and Iwa not with us, we are more likely to lose people. We could always attack them first. No, I told Sasuke I would give Konoha a choice and they chose. Until their actions go against the choice they have specified, I will honor it. Why do you put so much stock in Sasuke? Why is it that you indulge his requests about Konoha? For the same reason I would do the same for you. You, Anko, Sasuke, and Shino are my family in all but blood. Sasuke has not joined me, but he has chosen his home. In a way, it's my own fault. I helped him change his own nature. But, this was one of two paths. I chose this one. I could have tried manipulating him before helping him change his nature, but then he would have followed the path Orochimaru was trying to drag him down. Then there was this path. I see. And what happens if he betrays that trust? The same thing I would do to anyone else if they betrayed the trust I put in them. You know what I mean. That incident a few years ago. Yes, torture if possible, but death will always be the end result for those who betray the trust I extend. And what about the plan? If we leave Konoha alone, the plan will come to fruition. I guarantee that. It will just take longer. We will bide our time. The current Konoha will fall eventually. Even if it is only metaphorically. We will replace the corruption over time. Eventually, there will be nothing left of the old world. Nothing but the seed of corruption and greed in the human mind that we will stomp out whenever it sprouts. It will never be a perfect world. There is no such thing. But it will be ideal. They both pause for a few minutes. Hinata, Naruto said, walking over to her. Thank you, for everything. He said as he embraced her. Hinata returned the embrace as they shared the moment. Naruto pressed his forehead against Hinata's for a moment. His neck then bent down a bit before Hinata turned red and melted. While she was calm outside, Hinata was dying of excitement inside. Even after everything, this was the first time Naruto had ever kissed her. It was small and short, and, in Hinata's eyes, it had ended all too soon. Outside the door, Shino was kneeling down with his insects crawling back up his arms. Anko's going to love this, Shino said with a smirk. Then he left. Naruto stepped away from her for a moment before leaning his head down. He laid his forehead into the crook of her shoulder. No matter what happens, no matter how many wars come, no matter how many die around us, promise me that you, Shino, and Anko will never leave me alone. Promise me that. Promise me that, Naruto said, hugging her tighter. Hinata hugged him tighter in return. I won't leave you here alone. I can only try to make sure to try and keep our friends with us, but I promise to try and keep them here. But even if you and I are the last ones left, promise me something. Anything. Promise me that even if we are the last ones left, that we will live for those we lost along the way. Promise me that we will live for those we lose along our paths. If they die, we will live to fight and die another day. Thank you. Break. Naruto was packing while Obito stood next to him. Why are you sending your team ahead? Obito asked. I'm sending you all ahead of me except Shino and Hinata because I want to travel under normal circumstances. I will tell you the same thing I told you before. The Hiraishin is a tool for battle and emergency. I will travel like any other man unlit such a time as war descends upon us. You can walk if you wish as well. But I am sending you on ahead. Naruto said. Alright, I'll see you in a few days then. Obito said before a spiral opened extended up. The spiral expanded into a circular door to his home in a zoo. Oh, and Obito. Yes, I have a bad feeling. I still have Hiruzen's armor, but I want you to have them prepare my war armor. Which one? Both of them. I will use the light of one to inspire hope in our people, and I will use the darkness of the other to inspire fear in our enemies. I will bring the end to their lines. How can you tell? What do you mean? How can you tell when things are changing? When war and terrible things are on the move? I've always had a feeling about these things. I have that feeling now. Then be safe, Obito said before walking through his portal and then closing it. Break. While Naruto was leaving for a zoo as Tsunade was getting Kakashi, Jiraiya, and Sasuke ready. What battle are we preparing for, Tsunade? Sasuke asked. We're going after Naruto. Tsunade responded. What did you say? We're going to kill him before he gets back to Izu. You saw. He sent the rest of his team to Izu ahead of him. We will be meeting up with another team before we catch up to Naruto. You can't. If you attack him, then Izu will be in chaos. It will give us and Iwa time to attack the island quickly. Both the Tsuchikage and I will be at the head of the invasion. The Raikage has already told me that even if his Jinchuriki will not join, he and his nation will. With Naruto and Izu dead, Orb will fall apart. His nations won't be able to act. If you do this, thousands will die. I know. Tsunade then turned to Sakura, who was now awake. Are you ready? She asked. Sakura nodded. If I can kill him before the other two die, will you let Hinata and Shino go? Sasuke asked. Break. Naruto was once again walking the road between iron and the whirling tides. He, Hinata, and Shino walked the path as they talked. As they crossed a border into one of the territories belonging to Izu, Naruto stopped. Shino and Hinata stopped as well. Tsunade, take a big step back. I don't know what kind of bullshit power play you're trying to pull here, but this is my territory. So whatever you're thinking, you'd better think again. Otherwise I'm going to have to head down to Konoha and I will rain down in a godly fucking firestorm upon you. You're going to have to unite the world against me to keep me from destroying you. I'm talking about a scorched earth. I will massacre you. I will fuck you up. Naruto shouted. A moment later and Tsunade emerged. Jiraiya, Sasuke, Kakashi, Kurenai, Sakura, Shikamaru, Choji, Tenten, and several Anbu. Naruto Uzumaki. Surrender and you will die quickly. One of the Anbu said. Is this what you have decided, Tsunade? Sasuke. Walk away. Now. If you don't, then you will die. Naruto said. I gave them and you a choice. If you betray my trust right now, I will end you. I can't, Naruto. They will attack you anyways. I already know that if they do and fail you will attack and destroy Konoha. I can't risk that, Sasuke said. Fine, Naruto said in a dead voice. So be it, but tell me, why do some of you do this? Honor. Stand amongst the ashes of 1,000,000,000,000 dead souls and ask the ghosts if honor matters. This is all so worthless. Your deaths will hold no meaning. I promise you this. Now, let's get on with it, he said, drawing his sword. I'm sorry, Naruto. I tried to convince them not to do this. But I will do everything in my power to prevent my people from shedding blood. Sasuke said. And what of my people? That was the argument you used against me. I was a fool for listening to such an argument. I should have simply had my armies march on Konoha while I was in the summit. Know this, Tsunade. Think about the people of your village. You have brought upon them nothing but ruin and death. Naruto said nothing more before rushing in. Tenten was unceremoniously cut in half in a vertical line. A wave of insects swallowed up some of the Anbu who came up behind Naruto. Choi became a giant and tried to crush Naruto. A moment later and a sword was stabbed in between his knuckles. Naruto ripped the sword out to destroy most of the hand, enjoying Choji's scream of pain. The scream didn't last long before Naruto knocked Choji out. You will see your clan burn. Then you can die, Naruto said before turning to block an Anbu who came at him with a sword. The moment Naruto beheaded the agent, Naruto rushed over to Hinata to help her in her combat against 3 of the Anbu. The 3 stood back to back as best they could. Jiraiya entered his Sage mode and tried to land a hit on Shino, but he was blocked by an invisible field. That same field then started electrocuting him. As Jiraiya screamed in pain, the others backed off for a moment. The electricity flowing through Jiraiya stopped as Naruto gripped the man's neck. He quickly threw Jiraiya like a ragdoll to Tsunade's feet. Let me show you the price you pay for not taking up my offers. My gifts become curses now, Naruto said. The ceiling arrays began appearing all over Jiraiya's body as he once again began writhing in pain. Naruto closed his hand. In response, Jiraiya's leg gave a sickening crunch as the bones in his legs were crushed. Jiraiya then fell still and quiet before letting out a nightmarish scream. He stopped once again before the seals melted off his body. Once gone, it revealed nothing but a pile of ash in the shape of a human body. Those ashes were taken by the wind a second later. Tsunade's eyes were open wide at the horrific thing she had just seen. You're a monster, she said. Kill him. Kill him now. As the others started rushing in again, Naruto twisted around to dodge a kick to his head. He shot out his leg and sent one of the Anbu into a tree, the body wrapping partly around the tree as the spine bent awkwardly. Sasuke then rushed in with his Chidori. Naruto countered by grabbing Sasuke's wrist and flipping him over. He attempted to break Sasuke's arm, but was unable to do so before his opponent escaped his grip and retreated. Kurenai went in for an opening in Hinata's defenses, but her blade hit one of Naruto's ribs instead. While she tried to comprehend what had stopped her, Naruto shoved his sword through the bottom of her jaw and out the top of her skull. It was at this moment, as most of the Anbu were now dead, that Sasuke noticed that Naruto was doing everything he could to guard Shino and Hinata, though he saw Naruto favoring Hinata. They were only here for Naruto. Sasuke charged his Chidori, aiming for Hinata this time. He had expected Naruto to get in his way, but was shocked when Naruto appeared over him, just short of Hinata. Naruto swung his blade and tried to cut into Sasuke's skull. Everything slowed down in this moment as instinct took over for the both of them. Sasuke jumped and twisted his body to avoid the sword. But he felt dread as he realized he was still moving towards his target. He tried to stop, but kept moving. Even as his feet dug into the ground, his momentum carried him. Naruto's own momentum carried him as he landed on the ground. Horror filled him as he realized what had just happened. As he realized what was happening, he heard the sickening sound of flesh being pierced as reality came back to speed. He turned to look over his shoulder. His own words flashed into his mind. Even a kunai can kill a cage. Sometimes, terrible things happen. No matter how easy they could have been to stop or how much we tried to stop them, they still happened. He had just never expected this. Why did this have to happen? Naruto heard glass shattering, already knowing what it meant. He had intended it never to happen. That will be all for this video. Be sure to like, subscribe, share, and comment down below for more videos. Goodbye.